Don't usually roll with notes, but we will this time.
What's going to happen with you guys? I'm sorry if you can't see it, but Dion's going to introduce Jim, then that video is going to play.
You're right, I'm going to talk to you on the my man, good. We come a long way. Are you guys ready? I know it's early, but we only get one day a year to do this event. So are you guys ready? That's not enough. Are you ready? All right. There are three components that a city needs to be successful when it comes to small business, growing and creating jobs, like Shipt has clearly done. Number one, we need investors, but it's not all on the investors. We need legitimate companies with talent. And then lastly, number three, we need leadership at the city level that can get behind it. You know what? We've got all three right now in Birmingham. I raised around, in 55 days, I raised $1 million, all from Birmingham investors. And that means it's possible, and there's other companies that have done it. Planet Fundraiser has done it. You've seen and heard stories about Fleetio, who's really, in my mind, Tony, you're the next Shipt. No pressure. So this responsibility and these three components is so important, and you need to hear about them from the leader of our city now. And so I'm going to bring out my good friend and our mayor, Randall Woodfin. What's up, man? Why is small business one of the 4 pillars for the city of Birmingham as part of your plan?
Well, first of all, good morning, everyone. Listen, I am happy to be here with you all in celebrating of Innovation Week in support of everything every single entrepreneur is doing in this room, everything you're doing in our city. So thank you so much for what you're doing. For me, small businesses represent so much for the city of Birmingham. Without getting too political, the short of it is this. For our city to grow, it's not necessarily going to depend on major corporations or big corporations. As a city, I think the backbone of not just our tax base, but the growth of our city, the definition of our city and the culture of our city will be how we support small businesses. So in one hand, the whole idea of opening your business, starting your business, expanding your business, the city of Birmingham, its role has to be, we have to be efficient in that process when you interact with us. But on the other hand, making sure we build an ecosystem, include an ecosystem and support an ecosystem that really focuses on talent and support of local talent. That's gonna be at the small business level.
So you mentioned talent. A lot of people think that small businesses are all about entrepreneurs and investors, right? Gotta have great entrepreneurs creating a great idea that gets product market fit, and then you gotta have investors to help them grow it and hire people.
Right.
But no matter how much money you have to hire people, you gotta hire the right people. You need talent. So for those who might be at Alabama or Auburn, let alone some of the other schools in the Southeast, why should they come to Birmingham instead of Atlanta, Charlotte, Nashville?
And so I've been talking about this all week. This whole notion of we don't have to be the next Austin. The city of Birmingham does not have to be the next Chattanooga or Nashville, Atlanta or Charlotte. We need to be the next version of our best self. That really means, right. We have local talent in this city and in this state. And for any graduate, whether it's Alabama, Auburn, UAB, or anywhere, we need to be intentional about retaining our talent, but we also need to be intentional about attracting our talent. And I think for our city, when you have things like Shipt happen, it sends a signal to everyone that you can be successful here in the innovation space, in the startup space, in the tech space, in the entrepreneurial and small business growth space. But I think my role in the city, as it relates to our administration, how do we attract that talent? The biggest thing we can do is celebrate and be a big cheerleader for the existing ecosystem in small businesses, and then figure out a way to promote what we're already doing right to continue to attract that talent.
Well, I mean, for me, I'm not from here. I've been here 15 years, but I'm from New York, and a lot of staff we hired at Iron Tribe and have hired at Influencers not from here. It's an attractive city too. It's a great cost of living. It's a great place to raise a family. There's a lot we have to sell.
Dude, listen, there's more positive going on in our city in the last few years. I inherited a lot of great things. My role is to continue to be a cheerleader and expand on the things that are working for our city. But I can tell you this, we have to talk about the intangibles sometime. The intangibles of hope, curiosity, daring to be different, not afraid of no, not afraid to fail. I think that's the spirit that exists in the city. Part of that spirit is a dotted line to what I call crazy. Crazy enough to take the risk, high risk, but I also believe in high risk and high reward. And I think that feeds into the same mindset of entrepreneurs and people in the startup space who are not afraid to fail.
Well, you talk about crazy. I gotta say, we all love how you are on social media, and we love when you call out Delta. You know, we love when you do the things you do on social. You know, we love your playlist on Spotify. If you haven't heard it, download Randall's playlist. It's great. What other cities have a mayor with a playlist on Spotify? I think most of them are rocking CDs. All right, so I talked about the three groups real briefly with the audience before you came out. You know, the three groups that you and I have talked about for a while now that really make this whole thing churn, right? And so we talked about talent being one of the groups.
Right.
Then we said investors, and then we said the city. Let's talk about that investor piece. What is the responsibility of investors, both located here, angels, and located abroad, institutional, and what part do they play in this magic city vision that you have?
So investors play a big role. I've been a mayor now 8 months, and 6 of these months we've been intentional about courting, building relationships, being intentional in the space of developing relationships. We know a lot of capital as it relates to investors exists in New York. We know a lot of investors exist in the West Coast in California. But, you know, as the great poet Andre 3000 said, the South has something to say, right? And so consider that.
My man.
The South really does have something to say as it relates to investors can take advantage right here in Birmingham and what we have to offer. And so, again, I have to look at SHIP as a good example of when you have investors that can see that potential, what happens. And so we are looking for major exits in 2018. We're looking for more major exits in 2019. We want investors to plot down right here and make that difference.
And how big is it not only to let investors see big exits, giving the city more credibility, allowing them to have more interest in our startups to invest in them, but also how great is it when a big exit occurs and the people in this city who made the money off of that exit are reinvesting into startups? Because I would say 80% of the $1 million that we raised just now with Influencer is from successful entrepreneurs, CEOs in the city. So how important is it for people who win to reinvest?
Oh, it's major. You know, I spent a little over a year as a candidate, and I had a chance to meet a lot of people, some investors, some small business owners, people who have been here, who have made what works for them here. They love it here. And when they, I call it cash out, they don't necessarily want to leave. They don't want to take what they've had and leave somewhere else and go to the West Coast or go to New York. They want to reinvest. They want to win again. And I think for us as a city, we need to honor that, but we need to make sure we're creating a space for them to invest again.
Yeah, a good buddy of mine here in this city who's an entrepreneur, Josh Gervin, always says, we need young people driving around in Ferraris. and he's right. You know, we need to be a city where we're having exits, and not just the CEO, but the leadership team, the folks on the ground floor are all winning. And we need more ships.
We do.
And to his credit, Bill Smith is reinvesting all the time in a lot of the startups in the city.
Right.
So he deserves a shout for that. Okay, so the third group is the city, right? So talent, we talked about, investors, the city. You've made some big hires. You have recruited great talent. I can affirm you on that. His team is stellar. how important is the role of the city, and what is the role of the city in this ecosystem that we want to build?
Well, I would say the first thing for us as a city, we have to really create opportunity. So many times people say they want to start a business, they want to be in the space of a startup. What do I do? Where do I go? I think one, that opportunity is the first thing we do. Two is support the existing ecosystem. And so when you think of this week and what already exists in the city, in my opinion, this can go and extend longer than a week. This could be next week if we want it to be. We can do this over a month because there's so many great things happening in the space of startups and entrepreneurs and small business. For the city of Birmingham, the third thing we have to do is really, really have a laser focus, and I'm going to be on repeat for this. That's talent. I'm talking about talent development, talent retention, and then talent attraction. And so how do we support talent? I always say this, there are more solutions than there are problems, but I also believe there is a massive amount of talent right here in our city, in our region. As a city, my role in our administration is to support that talent, to make sure they have the opportunity to take the risk to fail, but take the risk to win as well. And those three things, opportunity, creating the space of opportunity, supporting the existing ecosystem, and making sure we invest in talent. That's our role.
So talent can come in all forms. In sports, they always say, you're only as strong as your weakest link, right? So some people are practice players. Some people are the star quarterback. Not everybody can be the star quarterback. So there's people that are playing at all different levels, all types of roles, technicians, operators, visionaries, and it's important for everyone to play their role. If you look at great cities that have been built and the rise of those cities, it wasn't a great mayor that made it happen all by himself. It wasn't the government who did it. It wasn't just one company that did a great job. It was an army, right? And so no matter who you are in the audience, you play a huge role in where we want to go with this ecosystem. And I'd like for you to speak to that. What's the charge? What's the call to action to this audience for excellence in whatever role they play?
I think my charge to every single person that can hear the sound of my voice is very simple. What we're doing in the city of Birmingham is a we, us, our moment. This is our time. And for our city to grow, no one should depend on one entity. The city of Birmingham as a municipal government cannot do it alone. But I also believe small business owners and entrepreneurs should not be left to do it alone as well. And so from a partnership standpoint, from a public-private support linking up standpoint, from a we, us, our standpoint, we have to come together and learn best practices from each other. That's a portion of what this week is about, not just celebrating the good we have, but for people to learn from each other and how to build. My charge is very direct. Embrace we, us, our. Don't be afraid to fail. There were many people, I want everyone to know this, there were many people who told me I shouldn't run. There were many people who told me I couldn't win. There were many people who told me to wait my turn. I imagine as high risk takers in the space of innovators and entrepreneurs and startups, people tell you you're gonna fail. People tell you to wait. People tell you you can't. Shake that off. Don't believe that. Be encouraged enough to win. Be encouraged enough to know, be encouraged enough not to be afraid to fail. Own what you wanna do. Believe in yourself. Have the passion and the courage and communicate to the world your passion and your vision, and I believe it will come true. So let's embrace each other. Let's continue to work together. And the city of Birmingham, know this. You have a cheerleader at the mayor's office at City Hall. And however I can help, I stand willing and ready.
You mentioned that a lot of people told you shouldn't run. There's a lot of people that didn't take our calls early on, but
there were a lot of people.
When the runoff started,
a lot more calls.
They started calling back, didn't they?
It's okay though.
But hopefully you see that you have a leader in this city who is a servant leader. And I think we all know that if there's anything that's missing right now in America in politics, It's leadership. And we have real leadership in our city, and we need to embrace that. So we're done with this segment, but we have a big day ahead. And as I asked you earlier, please, high energy, even though it's early in the morning. We have great speakers. And remember, I was in your seat 2 years ago, and it spurred me on to new things. And there's probably a big thought today. So if you do one thing today, it's leave with something you're gonna take action on. Whether it's a new relationship you made here, whether it's something you learned from one of the speakers, whether it was the charge from our mayor, just write down one thing that you're gonna take action on from this event so that you can tell the story of what it did in your career, your life, as time goes on, and you play your role in our ecosystem. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ben.
Great job.